was wondering, when you're working with highly sensitive people or empaths on those coping skills, on developing better coping skills, where do you start, or what's the most important first one that they are sort of lacking or need to work on?
Thank you, madam. And I'll use it right now. See, years ago, I would have beaten myself up for having a brain fart and losing it. And it's Friday.
Yeah.
We've had a busy week. My brain might lose it sometimes. I don't always track. Before I worked on my critical voice, that would have eaten me alive. I would have spent hours after this interview going, what's wrong with you? Like, why did you do that? You put your foot in your mouth. Blah, blah, blah. She's going to have to edit that now. I gave her more work to do. Just berating ourselves. And in the absence of getting what we needed in childhood, whether that's because of neglect or abuse or just really busy parenting, whatever it is, it seems like our human psyche fills in with negativity and criticalness.
Yeah.
So unfortunate. So many of us have these absolute inner bullies in our heads.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about the inner bully is that it's not super obvious. Like, my inner bully doesn't walk up and go, hey, shithead. That would be kind of obvious. I could go, hey, I know that's nasty. I've done enough therapy to know, I'm not going to do that with myself. If we're really smart, okay, so is that inner bully. So is that inner critic. And so our inner critic and our inner bully is like, hey, what are you going to do? Really? You're going to go to bed early? Really? Or the inner gremlins from addiction go, really? Don't you think you deserve a drink today?
Yeah.
So we have to really learn how to identify these voices.
Mm-hmm.
I utilize what I call wise woman and wise man. We want to cultivate this wise woman and wise man part of ourselves. I want to make sure all the time that my wise woman is driving the bus of my life, if you will. And if I'm really paying attention to myself mindfully, so mindfulness is its own coping strategy, then I can be in charge of tapping in that wise woman, understanding that I have an inner adolescent. Okay? I have an inner child in me, as we all do. Okay? I have this inner critic. If we don't understand our complexity and start to really invite ourselves to understand our complexity, then we think things like, well, I should think one thing about this.
Yeah.
No way. My wise woman, like, even if I think about food, my wise woman goes, yeah, let's eat really healthy. My inner child goes, fried chicken and macaroni and cheese, please. I have to negotiate that inside of me. Mm-hmm. And if we're observing more than the average person, and that's leading us to think a whole lot more than the average person, then we have to really manage these inner parts. And no, I'm not talking about multiple personalities. I'm not talking about dissociative identity disorder. That's a different realm. This is just, if you're a smart, and emotional intelligence counts too, not just IQ, but a well-rounded kind of intelligence, then we have to understand these different parts and understand what's at play when. And that's a big part of taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting in a couple different ways, because in some ways we feel like that inner critic voice is protecting us, right? It's, oh my God, if I let go of this voice that is pushing me to do more, be more, not slack off, I'm going to be safer in this world. And then at the same time, you're filled with anxiety and talking shit to yourself and doing all these things. And it's such a push-pull. One of the things my therapist helped me with and told me to do is, I started working with her right when I quit drinking. My daughter was 2. And she is a mini me, looks exactly like me, but thank God is way more of a badass and less sensitive and less of a people pleaser and all that. But she, when I was feeling that way, she's like, imagine your daughter. Would you say that to her? If she felt this way, would you tell her to suck it up and what the fuck is wrong with you and get it together, or whatever it is? And that helped me, that idea of reparenting yourself or being kinder to yourself.
I think that's one of the most powerful techniques anybody can share with anybody else. And really the most powerful techniques to me are very simple, because when we start to get in the struggle, if it's complex, we're not going to do it. We're not even going to be able to find it or grab it. So we need simplicity. That might be part of the coping. But what she asked you to do, I said it, I had sessions before I had this interview with you. I said it 3 times today to 3 different people. And I'll say it this strongly to people. If you will not say it to a 5-year-old, don't you dare say it to yourself. And that's the truth about almost every highly sensitive person I've ever known. I could pick some random child, doesn't even have to be your own.
Yeah.
And go, really? Say what you just said to yourself to this child. No, not only wouldn't you couldn't.
Yeah.
And that's self-love, you guys. When you actually basically look at yourself and go, oh, this is how I need to love myself.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to say it to a 5-year-old, you cannot say it to yourself. And really, a lot of our healing is the reparenting part is healthy discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And in healthy discipline, we discipline that part. We go, no, that's not okay. The same way if we saw 2 small children and one was bullying the other, most healthy adults would step in and be like, hey, that is not okay. Or we would empower one child to be able to say that to the other child.